Iran's system of governance doesn't really allow the ballot box to make much of a difference because the role of the president and the parliament itself in many ways is quite impotent.
This is Samira Mohyeddin, an award-winning multi-platform journalist, producer, and broadcaster of Iranian descent. On the surface, Iran's presidential elections have brought a wave of change, with the only reformist candidate being sworn in after the runoffs. According to the Iranian Interior Ministry, Masoud Pezeshkian received over 16 million of the 30 million votes cast, decisively defeating hardline contender Saeed Jalili. Dr. Masoud Pezeshkian, a veteran of the Iran-Iraq War, began his political journey as health minister under President Khatami when he represented Tabriz in the Iranian parliament. In 2003, he faced impeachment over appointments, foreign trips, misuse of a World Bank loan, and failing medical infrastructure, such as health insurance and drug distribution. Amidst this, Behzad Nabvi, the deputy speaker, supported him, arguing that these were not the country's most pressing problems. Pezeshkian ultimately retained the vote of confidence in the Majlis by winning 170 votes in his favor. Pezeshkian's surprising win for the reformist camp on Friday coincides with a historic low turnout in the elections, signaling widespread voter apathy and prevailing disillusionment.
My family and friends didn't vote, actually. They told me that they refused to take part in the elections any longer. And that's what you're hearing from a lot of people. And there was a real push for a boycott of the elections, both inside and outside of the country. Iran has about 6 million people now in diaspora. So there was a huge voter sort of boycott also within the diaspora. But at the same time, a lot of people in Iran are still hopeful that there can be change within the four walls of the Islamic Republic.
In Iranian circles, Pezeshkian is known for his practical stance on foreign policy. He has remained open to negotiations with the West, criticized the ritualistic chanting against other countries, including the United States, which usually wells up during heated protests. He has also demonstrated a willingness to de-escalate nuclear tensions with the West.
Yeah, Pezeshkian, when he was running during the debates and other things, he made gestures towards the West. He said that he wants to restore ties, that the West shouldn't be our enemy. And there is this hope of reviving the JCPOA. But who knows what's going to happen with the American elections, considering that, And then also, at the same time, he made a lot of gestures towards women. He said, we shouldn't be brutal towards women. We shouldn't be violent towards them. So people took that as him saying, they may ease up on social restrictions within the country, right? There is a huge apathy and anger among the youth of Iran, who really in large numbers did not go out to vote. So that's all coupled with this sort of overall apathy of change happening within the system itself.
JCPOA, or Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, is an agreement between the US, Iran, and other nations that limits Iran's nuclear activities in exchange for relief from economic sanctions. It aims to prevent the development of nuclear weapons and promote regional and global security. Pezeshkian's presidential campaign gained significant support from reformist leaders like former President Mohammad Khatami and former Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif. From 1997 to 2005, Khatami and his allies had attempted to strengthen civil society by implementing laws that would also apply to the police and courts, empower elected institutions like the parliament, and expand press freedoms. However, they faced formidable opposition from Khamenei and the Islamic Revolutionary Guards, resulting in their defeat across these fronts. Before the election, Khatami endorsed Pezeshkian in a video message on X, acknowledging Iran's current societal crisis and emphasizing the need for structural reforms. Meanwhile, Zarif announced his support for Pezeshkian's proposed foreign policy to improve relations with the West and end economic sanctions. Despite his reformist stance, Pezeshkian said that he supports Iran's theocratic system during his campaign. In his victory speech, he reiterated his commitment to preserving this framework and affirmed Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei its authority as the ultimate decision-maker on state issues. He added that he looks forward to implementing the Supreme Leader's policies while continuing the initiatives of former President Ebrahim Raisi. During the election campaign, Khamenei had issued veiled warnings about Pezeshkian's candidacy, cautioning against politicians who believed progress hinged on relations with Western powers, notably the United States. Despite the tiered drop in voter turnout, Khamenei praised the number of people who showed up to vote, claiming it defied a boycott attempt by Iran's adversaries aimed at spreading despair among the people. In a closed system like Iran's, terms like treason and conspiracy are often used by dictatorial figures when revolution looms. For instance, Putin has jailed several dissidents over the year. Most recently, a jailed adversary, Alexei Navalny, died in prison under suspicious circumstances. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has detained several family members on treason and corruption charges. And thousands of anti-state protesters have been forcibly disappeared by Pakistani authorities in Balochistan, many of whom have been accused of terrorism. During his campaign, Pezeshkian also forged close alliances with prominent reformist figures who were instrumental in negotiating the 2015 Iran nuclear deal with Western powers. As the American elections draw near, the question of who will occupy the American presidency becomes increasingly crucial. With polls favoring Trump, the future of the JCPOA hangs in uncertainty.
What is going to happen when Trump comes in? Because remember, it was Trump who got rid of the JCPOA. So we don't know really at this point. I mean, it looks like Pezeshkian, regardless of Trump or whoever, would still be willing to restore ties with the West. And according to Trump, I mean, he makes some bellicose statements, but he did say he was willing to work with the Iranians, just not under the guise of the JCPOA. I think we may see Trump try and come up with his own deal.
Iran's foreign minister has already claimed that the country is indirectly in talks with the US in Oman. But US representatives have denied that any nuclear negotiations are taking place. Even on the domestic front, Pezeshkian's supposed liberalism may not convert into a change in the status quo. In 2022, when Iran erupted into mass protests following the death of Mahsa Amini, a young Iranian woman who was arrested and beaten by the Guidance Patrol for violating the mandatory hijab law, Pezeshkian had been vocal about ensuring freedoms for women. We will not be able to cover women's heads through coercion. Our current behavior only complicates matters for girls and young people. We have no right to force students, girls, and women regarding citizenship rights. But his condemnation was tempered by the language he used. He said that he respected the hijab law, but condemned its inhumane enforcement. Mohyeddin thinks this is all for the show.
Something I really like to remind people of is that Pezeshkian was responsible for instituting the hijab within the education system and within Iran's healthcare system. So now he's coming out and saying, oh, I'm going to, ease up on these restrictions. He has no control over that. The president can say whatever he likes. It is really the Guardian Council, and they are an unelected 12-member body of men whose average age is 82 years old. They are the ones who control the social policies. They are the ones who make sure that all the laws in Iran conform to Islamic criteria. Pezeshkian is impotent in every way, shape, and form to really make any effective change within Iran's domestic policies.
These laws are enforced by the morality police, known for cracking down on women who do not cover their hair and bodies or wear too many cosmetics. Pezeshkian has been fairly direct in his opposition of the morality police. My government would oppose the morality police, and I stand firmly against any form of coercion against any human being. We have no right to coerce women and girls, and I am ashamed of these behaviors towards them. But critics question whether he even has the power to dismantle the morality police or overturn the hijab laws.
The hijab, the mandatory hijab of women in Iran, is very much a flag of the Islamic Republic. And it is a good reminder to people to know this, that even before Khamenei who was the first supreme leader. Even before Khomeini formed government in 1979, they imposed hijab on women. That was the first thing they did. So, in my estimation, there is no removal of the hijab until you have a removal of the Islamic Republic.
Earlier this year, Pezeshkian emphasized that Khamenei's intervention played a crucial role in preventing his disqualification from the March parliamentary elections. This subtly highlights the central locus of power in Iran.
I think it's important to talk about who the real leader of Iran is, who dictates foreign policy, and then who executes it. It's really the president who executes that. It's not the president who sets the foreign policy. It's Khamenei, who is the supreme leader, who is the velayat faqih, the supreme jurisconsult of the government, who really decides where Iran leads. Now, Khamenei is 85 years old. At this point, there is no successor. So this is going to be a very pivotal moment, this presidency for Iran. The next 4 years will be quite pivotal. Iran's political landscape is very much a puppetry of Khamenei. You know, the presidential candidates are sieved, they're handpicked. You know, they have to all declare their loyalty to the system of governance, to the velayat faqih, which is the supreme leader. So change really won't come to Iran. The type of change that the youth and the activists and civil society wants to see. It's not going to come to Iran through the ballot box. And that's why you are seeing such voter decline through the years.
And so, while Pezeshkian has garnered support and made reformist pledges, critics within and outside Iran are wary of the pervasive influence of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. If he's forced to stand against the weight of Khamenei's authority, the current president may find that he is impotent.